The second letter of the Hebrew Aleph-Bet is Beyt. Let's begin a new letter profile for Beyt. The meaning is going to be a house or a tent. There are two ways to write the letter Beyt, one with a dot in the middle and one without. The one with the dot, known as a dagesh, indicates that this will sound like b as in boy. Without the dagesh indicates the sound v as in vet. Practice both of these versions, writing them from right to left. The ancient Hebrew pictograph is a floor plan of a tent and is a symbol of a house. This letter holds the meaning of house, tent, and family, because the way you can identify what family one is from is to know which house they come from. For example, the house of Jacob. The Beyt also means inn as a frame of reference for location. One would think the Bible would start with the letter Aleph, which embodies being the source, the genesis, and represents the number one, which means first. But the Bible begins with the Hebrew letter Beyt. In the word Bereshit, the B is the Beyt, which represents the prefix in. On a micro scale, we all have our own individual families which we are in. If we zoom way out to the macro scale, it's as if the Beyt was divinely designed to remind us that it always started in. It all started with the Beyt. The Beyt means house, family, and the location of being in. The letter Beyt holds the numerical value of 2. The number 2 represents creation. And if you're around in the 80s, you know that it takes 2 to make a thing go right. In order to preserve creation, the animals entered Noah's Ark 2 by 2. Symbolism for the number 2 can be creation, paradox, and witness. It can hold the meaning of duality and plurality, and it can also point towards union, because when 2 become 1, union occurs. Beyt is not just a letter, but also functions as a prefix. As a refresher, a prefix is a letter or a word added to the front of a root word. Beyt has the prefix meaning of in. For example, earlier I showed you the first letters of the Hebrew Bible of what we call the Old Testament. In Hebrew, it reads Bereshit, which means in the beginning. If we add the Beyt as a prefix to other words, such as eretz, which means land, it would become be'eretz, meaning in the land. I want you to look at this Beyt and draw one on the paper in front of you. Add a dot. Draw an arrow and label that dot me with an exclamation point. See Beyt as the house, and you are located in the Beyt. The very first words of the Bible starts with in, which is the letter Beyt, which is a symbol of a house and a family. Can you imagine all humankind as one family? Can we all fit in? Is it even possible? Are we really all in? And did we start in? Is anyone out? Am I out? Take time and ask yourself these kind of questions. Explain why you might agree or disagree with the idea of all humankind being in one big family and of one house. Here we have the letter Beyt and the letter Nun. This Hebrew word is Ben, meaning son, and this is where we get our English name Ben from. The Beyt is combined with the Nun. Beyt holds the value of 2. It means plurality, others, and creation. It symbolizes the house, tent, and family. It tells us of the location, which is in. The letter Nun is a symbol for the sprouting seed and represents continuation. When you combine the house and the seed, you get the continuing of the house. And this is the Hebrew word for son. The ancient Hebrew lexicon defines this word with the active definition of build, the concrete definition of tent panel, and an abstract definition of intelligence. In ancient times, when the tent needed repair, it was done one panel at a time. The old removed and the new strip added. This symbolizes a work that could potentially continue forever. Just as one generation is removed and a new one is added, and so the son continues their family line. Ben also contains the abstract definition of intelligence. The son has the skill of the mind and the hands to build. It takes planning and building to create a structure, a house, and a family. A son of the house is identified by intelligence. By adding the Aleph to the word Dam, meaning blood, we found Adam, which means man or mankind. And it tells us that mankind has the blood of the Aleph. Now, let's add the Aleph to the word Ben. By adding the Aleph, we get Aleph's house continues, which is the continuing of God's house, and that comes through his son. And this reveals the name of Aleph's son. Has anyone ever told you that the name of the Son of God is Evan? I highly doubt it. But that's what these letters are revealing. When we take the Hebrew word for son and add Aleph, we're getting Aleph's son, which creates the name Evan. And this word is the Hebrew word for stone. In Acts 4:11, it says, "This Jesus is the stone that was rejected by you, the builders, which has become the cornerstone." When you read this verse in the New Testament, you're reading it translated most likely from the Greek. And the Greek word for stone is lithos, and the Hebrew equivalent to the word lithos is the Hebrew word even, which means stone. And here we are told that Jesus is the even, the lithos, the stone, which the builders rejected. Time for some mental stretching. The last word in this lesson that I want to introduce you to is the word bara, which is translated into English as create, shape, fashion, or form. Let's look at each letter that make up this word, starting with the Beyt. Beyt means house and inn. The resh holds the meaning of head, top, beginning, and first. The Aleph, as you know, is the strength, power, the leader, and the origin. If I just look at the meanings of just these letters and try to come up with my own interpretation of what these letters are trying to convey, I can see how the power to create resides in the head of the family, or the strength of creation is the head of the house. I can interpret the head as in the mind of Aleph. We are in a family who have the chief architect as our leader. Isn't that incredible? We are in a tribe called humankind who have the genesis from the source of creativity itself. Feel free to read into these letters as you learn them and come up with your own versions as you study, because these letters are making up words, and these words are the result of what these symbols mean. This is a form of processing and chewing where you strip down the face value assumptions that we have, and we're able to unlock spiritual truths. The ancient Hebrew lexicon defines this word bara as the action of fill, the concrete definition of fat, because grain is fed to the livestock, making them fat or full. I'll be honest, it's kind of a stretch to relate a fat cow with what it means to create. This is why I call it mental stretching, because this is where we lay down our personal assumptions of what words mean, and we let the essence of the definition filter through. And this is a word used in Genesis 1, where God is found filling and fattening creation up. Just as outer space is filled with the sun, moon, and stars, or how the space in a woman's womb is filled with the life of a baby. It just keeps growing and growing and growing until she's so fat with life that it just has to come out and has a life of its own and contains the potential to create more life. Isn't that crazy? We can think of creation in the macro sense of all the wonders of this earth and universe, down to the micro creations of filling an empty table with a beautiful dinner for your family, filling the garden beds with seeds, or even filling a blank canvas with words or pictures. So think about this. Creativity being synonymous with the filling of space. Take some time and ask yourself, what does this look like? And what does it mean to me? Write down your thoughts. Give yourself lots of time and space to do this, and I'll see you in the next lesson.